Good evening. Do you mind if I take this seat? Oh, has my reputation preceded itself? Well, relax. I'm not here for you. You see that gato over there? The one with the fastidious footwear, guzzling his milk. 8 times he's eluded me. But this nightlife, yes, this one's going to be different. Oh, look at him. Unaware of the fact that I'm stalking him. People oftentimes find it difficult to come to terms with the reality that I'm always close at hand. But come now, where are my manners? I haven't introduced myself. I'm known by many titles. The Pale Rider, the Grim Reaper, the Fourth Horseman, Death. Yes. I am Death personified. You should be honored. I do not often make myself visible. It does tend to frighten people. Or are you one of those who has the eyes to see that which others do not have the courage to acknowledge? Well, while we are sitting here, waiting for Puss in Boots over there to finish his milk, perhaps I should regale you with a tale to put your mind at ease. Yes, I already told you I'm not here for you, and won't be for quite some time, but that doesn't mean we can't chat. Yes, people are always trying to evade me or outsmart me, and occasionally their attempts are so humorous or so perilously close to being successful that they become worth recounting. Let me share one with you. This is a story that goes by the name The Appointment in Samara. As the story goes, there was a merchant in Baghdad who every day would send his servant to the market to buy provisions. And yet one day the servant returned, his face white as a sheet, and his empty hands trembling. "What has befallen you?" asked the merchant. "Oh, master," cried the servant, "when I was in the marketplace I was jostled by a man in the crowd, and when I turned, I saw it was none other than Death that had brushed past me." And the Reaper looked at me and made such a threatening gesture that I took to my heels. "Now please, goodly master, lend me your horse, and I will ride away from this city that I might avoid my fate. I will go to Samara, for surely Death will not look for me there." Isn't naivete delicious? Well, being of kindly disposition, the merchant lent him his horse, and the servant mounted it and dug in his spurs, and off he went as fast as the horse could gallop. Then, by and by, his curiosity getting the better of him, the merchant went down to the marketplace to see if I was still there. And sure enough, he saw me standing amongst the crowd. And he came to me and said, "Ho there, merciful reaper, why did you make a threatening gesture to my servant when you saw him just this morning?" To which I replied, honestly, that was not a threatening gesture. It was, in fact, a start of surprise, for I was astonished to see him here in Baghdad. For I know that I have an appointment with him later tonight in Samara. And so you see, you really can't escape me that way. No one can. No, you can't outrun death. But outsmarting, cheating death. Now there is a different matter. Equally foolish, but occasionally, temporarily successful, as you will soon find out. Ready for another story? I think that our gato over there can wait. Besides, I can see I have you transfixed. This story This story concerns the king of the ancient city of Corinth, a figure of who many songs are sung. But he is not remembered for his reign, no. The king is remembered for another reason altogether. For he was one of the very few people to ever, albeit temporarily, cheat death. Brilliant and notorious, the king's name was Sisyphus, and he was known far and wide for his avarice and deceit. Sisyphus seduced his own niece, stole his brother's throne, and oft killed his own guests. And so he soon became so reviled in the eyes of the gods that Zeus, the king of Mount Olympus, summoned me to his side. In that land and that time, I was known as Thanatos, the god of death. And so I knelt before great Zeus, and he gave me the task of traveling to Corinth, there to capture Sisyphus and take him to the underworld to receive his eternal punishment. However, Sisyphus had a well-earned reputation as devious, for when I, Thanatos, appeared in his court, he feigned honor at the presence of such a great and mighty god in his court, and tried his best to cajole me. But his flattery impressed me not, and so I brought forth a pair of metal bracelets, joined by a chain, shackles, you would know them as. But in that age, they were as yet a new and rather clever device to restrain prisoners, invented only recently by the skilled Hephaestus, god of the forge. Well, Sisyphus had never seen bracelets like these before, and still maintaining his act of being honored at my presence and being a benevolent host, Sisyphus craftily took to admiring the bracelets and asked me how they worked. I told him that once locked in place, they could hold any being bound, inescapable. To which he replied that surely I meant any mortal or earthly being, because doubtless no mere bracelet such as this could restrain a divine being. To which I snapped at him, asking if he truly dared doubt my words. The shackles truly could bind any being from the heights of Mount Olympus to the depths of Tartarus, and anywhere in between. Yet still he shook his head and said he could not believe it. Such was his gift to be equal parts ingenious and insufferable, for he played on my indignation, such that if merely to shut him up and prove my words, I locked one of my wrists in the bracelet to show him how they worked. However, this was what he had been waiting for. For even as I demonstrated their make, his hands shot forward and Sisyphus snapped the second bracelet onto my free wrist. Then quickly he fastened the accompanying collar around my neck, and I found myself bound by this buffoon. Oh, how I fumed and cursed his name and threatened him with all the pains and perils a mortal can endure. Yet Sisyphus mocked my surprise and outrage, and triumphant he dragged me deep into the maze-like catacombs that lay below his great house, and there locked me far from sight of gods and men, deep below ground, below his kingdom. But you cannot bind death without grave repercussions. For imprisoned thusly, I, Thanatos, could not travel throughout the world, doing my duties, and thus, in my place, chaos spread. For without me there to give mercy to those gravely wounded or old, none could perish, and they were forced to endure pain and misery. Yes, no one could die, nor even could animals perish, and so these beasts of the land could not be slaughtered, and people began to starve, and yet, even as her bellies withered, they could not be granted the mercy of death, for I was trapped below Corinth. And oh, how the gods banded together against Sisyphus and threatened him to make life so miserable for him that he would wish to die too. Yet such was his selfishness that he refused, and they could not convince him to let me go, nor could they manage to find me in the prison where he had hidden me, and so release me. Time passed. More time than should have been allowed to. Nearly a month, in fact, of this terrible turmoil. And then at last, it transpired that the god of war, having grown tired of a world where his soldiers could not die in battle, and so his petty little skirmishes could not come to a satisfying conclusion. Yes, he himself set about tracking down my prison. He scoured the catacombs below Corinth, and at last liberated me. And as soon as the shackles fell from my wrists and neck, I angrily decreed that Sisyphus would spend eternity suffering in the underworld, starting that very day. I spread my ebony wings forth and bore Sisyphus deep into the underworld, where I left him to rot, but not without giving him a punishment fitting for Sisyphus's terrible trickery. Yes, you can cheat death, but only temporarily. And I am a very poor enemy. Yes, indeed. Sisyphus would be condemned for all eternity to roll a huge boulder up a steep hill. Great was the boulder, heavy as all the numerous sins that Sisyphus had committed during his waste of a life. And pushing it only a few steps required practically all his strength and stamina. Yet I, Death, am known to enjoy a good joke now and then. And so, every time Sisyphus managed to roll the boulder up the hill, the rock would slip from his grasp just before he reached the top and roll back down. Thus Sisyphus was compelled to return to the bottom of the hill and start the whole process all over again. Yes, this was Sisyphus's eternal fate, to push the rock up the hill over and over and over again, only to watch it roll down, forced to suffer an eternity of toil and frustration and failure, befitting one of his infinite arrogance. Oh dear, but I see now that I've frightened you. Do not think that I'm all wrath. I, like the gods of Olympus, am more like a mortal than you might think. I contain multitudes, many facets. I am friend and enemy. I am mercy and cruelty. Yes. Different cultures bring out different sides of me. For instance, in the land of Egypt, the domain of the pharaohs, I am known as Anubis, the jackal-headed god of death and mummification. There I am gifted with a noble task. For when a mortal dies in that land, they are brought before me, and upon a scale I set their heart and weigh it against a feather. And if, like Sisyphus's boulder, their heart is heavy with sin and wickedness, then they are consumed by Amit and their soul annihilated. But if they have lived an honorable life and their soul is light as the feather, then I usher them forth, guiding the deceased, granting them entry into the field of reeds, an afterlife filled with joy and plenty. Yes, and so you see, I'm not all cruelty. In fact, one poem sums it up quite nicely. I am always around, but never seen. I am often avoided, but you can't outrun me. I come in many forms: irony, love, laughter, or hate. I am everyone's final fate. Yes. I quite like that description of me. For I am truly more mercy than malevolence. Does not my appearance give you cause for thought? Am I wolf, preying on mortals? Or am I a dog, a loyal companion? Oh, if only you knew. If only you could understand. I walk by man's side from his beginning to his end throughout her life. I see your triumphs and your tragedies. And in the end, no one need suffer the sorrow of dying alone, for I sit with the sick and with the aged, and I hold their hand as they near the precipice, and then I usher them into that good night. I am mercy to the dying, guide to mortal souls, ushering them from one world to the next. Some may think me antagonist, but that is just because you love life so much. But I'm not the one taking it from you. That is just the course of natural events. No, I'm the one granting you mercy when your body fails. When time finally runs out. But as I said, fear not, I am not here for you. It will be some time before I do come for you. But I leave you with this. The gato over there, Puss in Boots. To him I am antagonist, at least for now. For he has lived a life of ignorance, of wantonness. He has failed to make the most of what he has been given, to savor it, to relish it, to live each moment to the fullest. Perhaps as his ninth life draws near, he will see the folly of his ways, and I may be companion to him instead of hunter, dog instead of wolf. Only time can tell. As the story of Sisyphus proves, I can occasionally be surprised. But for now, I leave you with these stories. Make the most of every moment. Live well. And don't worry. I'll be around. I'm always by your side, whether you can see it or not. Your ever faithful, silent friend. And so, I bid you adieu. And head off to see what Puss in Boots will make of his life. I'll be watching you. Ta-ta.